She left him for money. She stepped away from the small apartment where they had lived on thrift store plates and late-night laughter, and she took the hand of a boy whose pockets were deep and whose offers were loud. She moved into a life of polished surfaces and rehearsed evenings, where compliments were measured and attention arrived in invoices and invitations. She told herself the trade was sensible, stability for spontaneity, comfort for cracks. She told him a softer version and used a story about needing better for the future. He listened and made no show of stopping her. He watched the shift with a quiet that was not peace. He continued routines as if they tethered him to ordinary truth. The plant on the sill watered on Tuesday. The gray mug rinsed each morning. The door unlocked in the same way. He did not call her to beg. He did not perform. He kept a distance that mirrored the space she made. People offered pity as if it were currency. He accepted none. The rich boy kept her in lights and leather, in reservations and rehearsed kisses, in the kind of intimacy that had a manager and an agenda. He loved the accelerated shape of firsts. New restaurants, introductions that felt like promotions, the novelty of owning the right watch and the right opinions. She learned to nod at boutique staff and to practice small talk about art she had not studied. She learned to accept the sound of polished shoes on marble as an accompaniment to conversation. Time did what it does in all arrangements that trade depth for gloss. The gloss dulled. The manager of their social life scheduled arguments as if they were necessary interludes. The parties grew predictable. The late-night laughter she had once shared with another man was replaced by carefully timed applause. Curated travels left her hollow in hotel rooms that smelled of citrus and bleach. She found herself learning to name celebrities instead of learning the tilt of a man's smile. Regret does not always arrive with thunder. For her, it came as a series of small clarifications. She noticed how her hands remembered the texture of a sweater he had repaired. She noticed how her phone stored no honest photographs of her laughing with the rich boy. There were only staged frames and carefully angled videos. She found a sweater in a drawer that smelled like rain and remembered his clumsy, sincere apology. After missing an anniversary they could not afford to celebrate, she realized how often she had traded presents for presentation. The realization pushed and rolled until it became undeniable. She sat in a car that was too large and felt smaller than she had in an old kitchen. She began to speak less with the people who curated her nights and more into the corners of silence. She stopped buying things that made more noise than they relieved. She called herself greedy in ways she had never named, and then understood that what she had called hunger was something else entirely. It was fear of being ordinary, fear of smallness, fear of the unpredictable warmth of an imperfect life. She left the rich boy with a calm she had not expected. There was no dramatic scene, no cinematic storm. She signed papers, returned keys, and packed the essentials with hands that trembled but were steady. She returned the watch he had given her in a box whose velvet did nothing to soften the edges of regret. She folded dresses and emptied a drawer of receipts that had once promised significance. She left an address and a forwarding note and the faint hope. He received her message without a flourish. The words were simple and direct. She asked if they could meet. He agreed. The meeting did not occur in a publicized place. It occurred on a bench in a park where pigeons were indifferent and old men played chess with serious faces. She arrived first and felt the old nervousness fold into familiarity. He arrived, and the years between them did not straighten into bitterness, but lay like catalogs of small moments. She began with what she owed him, a confession. She said she had traded him for a false version of safety, that she had been wrong, that she had been ashamed. She did not demand forgiveness. She did not manipulate his pity. She named each choice plainly, without theatrics. She said she had returned because the absence of him had turned her life into a sequence of bought sounds. She said she wanted him back if he would consider it, and if he would not, she asked only for the truth of his feeling. He listened in the way someone listens when they have been taught to value facts over fantasies. He asked the questions that mattered. Why? What changed? Was it her or the life she had chosen? She answered each question with clarity. She said the rich boy had offered her comfort, but not courage. She said she had discovered that being wanted for the wrong reasons was a hollow architecture. She said she had come back knowing she had to face the consequences. Forgiveness arrived slowly and cautiously. He set conditions not to punish but to heal. He said he needed time, boundaries, assurance. He said he needed to see that her return was for him and not an escape from a different boredom. She accepted. She told him she would prove nothing with grand gestures. She would show him through presence, through small, steady choices, through being the companion she once had been without promises written in diamonds. They rebuilt with the architecture of modesty. They learned to speak in the grammar of truth rather than the vocabulary of performance. He taught her how to repair a shelf, and she taught him how to listen to music without checking a phone. They argued and reconciled and found that the things they thought would break them instead became clauses in a shared contract. They developed rituals, a weekly walk, the way they warmed each other's tea, the method of handling disagreement with a pause rather than a performance. People watched and speculated. Some judged her for leaving. Some judged her for returning. Neither judgment altered the work they did. They focused instead on small proofs. The way she defended him when others spoke ill, the way he picked up the call when she asked for help in the night. She learned to name gratitude instead of entitlement. He learned to allow tenderness without suspicion. Months folded into a year. The scars of the betrayal smoothed without disappearing. They kept marks in language and in action, phrases used as lanterns to avoid old traps, apologies offered without drama, and a habit of honest scheduling of time. He still remembered nights of emptiness. She still remembered the sting of material placation. But memory became a map more than a prison. One evening he proposed with a simplicity that fit the life they had chosen. There were no fireworks or social announcements. He folded a small ring into a box and spoke words that were neither rehearsed nor rich. She accepted with tears that were not show. They planned a wedding that reflected their economy of truth. A modest ceremony, close friends, food prepared by hands who cared, music that had no manager but many good voices. They married. The vows they exchanged were not long speeches but direct promises. She promised honesty. He promised patience. They promised to speak before assumptions took residence. They promised to keep the lighter parts of life alive. Humor, curiosity, public silliness. They promised to protect the small rituals that kept them tethered. After the wedding, they lived in the way people live when they prefer substance to show. Their mornings were ordinary. Their evenings involved dinners, a neighbor's laugh, a cat that snoozed on a windowsill, a shared project to plant lavender along the fence. They kept accounts not to calculate, but to care. They learned the rhythm of each other's silences and the measures of return after absence. She never forgot the ease of buying admiration, and he never forgot the sting of being left. Those memories became their teachers. They visited them without lodging there. They reminded each other when one drifted toward old habits. She reminded him when he retreated into pride. He reminded her when she glinted toward show. They were not perfect. They were present. They did not erase history. They used history to film the road signs. They honored the smallness of their choices and held them as the basis for a life. Their marriage did not fix everything. It made a posture of care habitual.